What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one I want to break down what's going on with NIO stock and talk about some very important updates. I'm also going to talk about what's going on with Tesla, SPY, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and talk about what the chart is suggesting, some other important levels to watch for. But before I do anything like this, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends in just about 9 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market and NIO and many other stocks. But for the time being, if you look at NIO, it's down 1.73% for the day, and it actually fails to get this breakout above the 200 EMA, looking a little bit weak, but so far, it's not necessarily that bad. And the reason for that is because NIO is still in this range, the support around that 10.5 area, and the resistance is very close to this about 11.5 zone. So we're just stuck going back and forth and back and forth. And there's a very high probability NIO is going to be stuck in this range for an extended period of time. But if NIO could hold above the 200, that's going to give it the chance to get that breakout. Now, when it comes to data affecting the markets for tomorrow, as a reminder, we have the PMI report coming out 15 minutes after the market opens. Then 30 minutes after open, we have the services PMI. So we have more and more data for the first 15 and 30 minutes of the day, followed by a Fed speaker near the very end of the day as well. So we have a Fed speaker and we also have other things. Expect some high volatility for the first 30 minutes. And besides that, NIO is still all right. Now, when it comes to NIO, we have this news that came out that NIO has 134 NIO houses, 286 NIO spaces, 301 NIO service centers, and about 1,800 power swap stations with over 3,000 power charger stations. So very interesting in total. Not bad for NIO's standards. And then I just want to remind you all that NIO had over 19,000 deliveries in August. It's not really helping them that much for the time being, but we're going to be watching to see if this continues to help them outperform the market. So far, NIO is not really doing that. The volume is still very low, so it dropped on low volume, nothing too aggressive or crazy. 37 million was the volume, and we're actually looking at the current price versus short volume. It's also dropping, which is a decent sign. Now, finally, I just want to add that Mizuho is still telling us to buy NIO, so we're getting some good buy ratings. And NIO's price-price ratio is starting to curl as NIO is starting to gain a little bit of strength compared to before. So NIO is starting to show more signs that it's trying to base. Wednesdays tend to be one of the best days of the week as we're green 56% of the time historically. And finally, when you look at the short interest, it started to go up just a little bit as we started September. 14 million NIO shares were shorted, but nothing too crazy. So now let's talk about this chart. How is this looking in my opinion? Well, there's a nice accumulation phase that's developing, but NIO is not really doing that great because we're not able to break above the 200 on the 4-hour time frame. Now, the 200 on the hourly is also very close, also as the daily. And we want to see this thing basically get this bullish cross in the PPO on the daily. So it's kind of like in this accumulation phase, trading sideways for a little bit longer before we get some kind of breakout later on. Is there potential for NIO to break out? Yes, there is. But for now, we're just going to be watching to see this inverse head and shoulders develop. So it's still trying to hold up, nothing too bad. And for the time being, it's still looking quite decent. However, as long as it stays in this range, we may see NIO continue to range trade. The range is between 10.5 and about 11.3. We've been going back and forth in this range for many weeks. So I do believe there's a possibility of NIO filling this 30 minutes imbalance and coming down to about 10.5, retesting that area, then just trading sideways. And I think that's what's going to happen for tomorrow. Despite that, when we look at other tickers out there, such as SPY, it's starting to look a little bit more bearish on the PPO. We're starting to make lower highs and lower lows. And you can see we actually broke down to the 448s during the after hours. So there might be a balance when we open and retest the 450, and this thing may slowly decline to the 448s. As for Tesla did something surprising and actually got a very nice recovery, came almost to the highs that we saw previously. So it's still trying to hold up despite the fact that we're just waiting. So tomorrow, what you want to see is, can Tesla hold these levels? If it manages to hold, we could get a bullish cross on the PPO, and Tesla could maintain this range between 260 and 255 for longer. But if Tesla fails to do so and starts dropping with the market, you're going to be watching 255. If that fails, expect it to come all the way down to 252, if not 250. What do I think is looking more likely on Tesla? Well, the thing about Tesla is, let's just zoom out of the chart just to talk more about this. The daily overall is still a little bit more kind of mixed. We were about to get the sell up, but we came right back up on the daily. So it's still very, very indecisive. It's still kind of in the middle right over here, but it's going to be testing this resistance. So we want to see if it can break or not. And then on the weekly, it still isn't looking that bad. It's kind of flat on the weekly, nothing too horrible. On the monthly, it's about to get a bullish cross on the PPO, so there is some potential for it, but that's not as huge just yet because it could take a little longer to develop. So I think it's going to likely just range trade for a bit, go back and forth and back and forth and consolidate. And we might just see a very flat day tomorrow as it's hitting this very, very tough resistance. This resistance stopped Tesla quite a bit in the past. Unless we manage to break above 260 and hold it, then we're going to turn more bullish. But for now, I do expect some sideways price action. I think that's what's going to happen to Tesla. For Apple, we have a bearish divergence on the 4-hour time frame. You guys can see it right here as we made the new high. And on the 30 minutes time frame, there's also a bearish divergence, a quadruple bearish divergence that's still developing. This tells me that this thing is likely going to get a rug pull very, very soon. I think that for the time being, it might try to hold up and try to fill the gap around 190, so make it a little pop on Apple. But even if Apple hits 190 and tries to fill the gap, as we approach the big event, there's likely going to be a big sell-off either a little before or after the big event on September 12th, as we have a triple and a quadruple bearish divergence. So that's my only warning for all the Apple investors out there. The triple Q is, once again, we have a possible head and shoulders looking kind of flat right now, but there is potential for it to come down to 375 in the future. I think there's a good chance of that happening. On the 4-hour time frame, however, we have this accumulation phase, so it's still indecisive. But we have a bearish cross on the PPO, which is favoring the bears a bit more. The overall formation could be a nice accumulation phase that's forming, but we could be in a phase or a part of the phase where we kind of like cool off a bit first before we continue higher. So overall, this thing could push a lot higher, but for the short term, we could see some downside because of the 4-hour charts. We haven't been able to curl just yet. We need to hold above 382 to turn more bullish. We have to hold it, and then this thing can start pushing. But overall, we're on a slight downtrend. If it continues to break down, we're going to be watching it to retest 376, and there's a good chance of that potentially happening. Nvda is looking a little weak. On the 4-hour time frame, it still is favoring the bears a bit more, and there is potential for it to come down to this imbalance. But before we talk about that, let's talk about 475 that has to be tested first. So the best thing to do is just watch these levels and be as calm, cool, and collected as possible. As far as NIO goes, it looks like it's going to test 10.5 tomorrow, then bounce, and we're going to see just range trade for a bit. I think the odds greatly favor that. Lots of sideways price action between 10.5 and about 11 maybe about 11 flats, and we're just going to go back and forth for most of the day. So that's what I'm predicting for NIO, sideways price action. I also gave you guys an update on Tesla, SPY, the QQQ, and a couple of others. Hopefully this video was helpful, and I'm going to be watching to see NIO retest 10.5 to maybe bounce off that and push back to 11 and get a very flat day. That's what I'm predicting for tomorrow. I think the price action may be boring for the next week or so, but things will improve over time for NIO so long as they continue to hold up. Anyways, thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.